Good evening. This is WOMMLP out of Burlington, Vermont, 1059 The Radiator. This is Rocket Shop. I'm Aaron Cross, and tonight we have Derek O'Connor.
Hey,
How's it going, Derek?
I'm good. How are you?
Our usual path is we like to start out with a song. So why don't you introduce us your first song and go for it?
All right. This is a song called Little Bird, and it's from my newest EP called Spoken Roads. I wrote this song in 2009, somewhere about, and it took me quite a while to get it recorded and put it out there, but I'm glad I did. This is Little Bird. I think it's time to clip my wings. I fly too close to the sun. And it'd be better to keep my feet on the ground next to you, where I belong. Allow me to introduce myself again. I'm the man now that I should have always been. It took some time for me to see that I needed to make a change. Yeah, that I can't get to you any other way, through your sleet, your snow and rain. And I can't get to you any other way. I guess nothing stays the same. I'm going back to the start, to live forever again, with the sense that once escaped me, where you reach out for me once more. Your sweet delight, it fills my heart, sinking in deep. I haven't heard your voice in quite some time. Are you letting go as the days fade into weeks out? So that little birdie breaks down my soul, and I can't get to you any other way, through your sleet, your snow and rain. And I can't get to you any other way. I guess nothing stays the same. Can't get to you any other way, through your sleet, your snow and rain. And I can't get to you any other way. I guess nothing stays the same. Yeah.
Awesome. That was Little Bird by Derek O'Connor. So, Derek, welcome to The Radiator.
Thank you for having me.
let's ask you a few questions about your music career. How about that?
Sure thing.
So you are located here in Vermont now, and
right.
you came up from Connecticut. What brought on the move?
It so my love affair with Vermont started sometime around 2009 or 10. I took a camping trip, which brought me to Townsend, which is like in the southern part of the state, and I was hooked, and so it became a long-term goal of mine to move up here, and 2016 or so I pulled it off. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Took you a few years, but you got here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You happy here?
Yeah, I love it. It's it's. I can't say it was anything like what I expected it to be, but yeah, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I was anywhere else. Is how I feel.
So doing a little bit of reading on your background, sounds like you started out music pretty young, back in Connecticut, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So did you move up here with the intent of being a musician full time, or were you already doing that and just felt this was a better place to kind of make your home base?
Yeah, I mean, I don't the moving here was it was completely separate from my musical endeavors, and at the time it actually created a bit of turmoil in my band because we had just started. We were together maybe a year or so. We had done some recordings and trying to elevate our game, and we were starting to get a little more serious. I'm like, hey guys, I'm moving to Vermont. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, what
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the band? And so it was something where the way I framed it was like, you know what, this is gonna make my musical focus like a regional focus and the broader New England area rather than worrying about a specific town or city or county.
Sure, that makes absolute sense. So doing a little bit of reading about the kinds of music that you've played, you've kind of run the gambit. Have you not?
Definitely.
You started out in punk and metal
That's right.
and moved into a rap career briefly,
Something
or
like that.
can you talk a little bit about what genres you explored prior to your current sound, and maybe is your current sound what you always had in mind for your solo work, or is just kind of came on later after exploring all these different genres?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a musical family. Both my parents love music, and my father's a guitarist himself. He's like a luthier, buyer, seller, trader. So guitars were always in the house. Music was always being played, and a diverse range of music being played. So I was never really. My focus in music was never that narrow. Or like dialed in that sense. And so when I was 14 or 15, playing with my buddies, it's like I liked a whole bunch of stuff, but what we could play was punk rock or like something close to it. So we'd be,
Absolutely.
at that time I was really into like the Ramones, the Addicts, the Casualties, a bunch of different punk bands, and my bandmates were into different bands than I was, and like Green Day was in the mix, and we would jam. And then my bandmates started getting into Dream Theater and like prog.
Sure.
And then that's when I started going my separate way. Not because I don't like prog, but as the singer, it was like an 8-minute song, but I had like the normal like 4 verses or what have you. So I was like, I'll try doing solo stuff. And so I started playing shows in Hartford, probably around, like 15 or so.
When you were 15?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So from a really, really young age.
Oh, yeah. Once I started doing it, I was like, all right, let's go do it. I definitely was not qualified. Hardly am now. But that didn't stop me. And
So were those early sets, were those acoustic sets, just you and your guitar?
Once I started doing that, it'd be me and my guitar, in a dive bar with like a metal band and like a folk act or like a rap group, these like wild shows, these eclectic bills. And after some time of doing that, I got signed to an indie label in Connecticut called Sling Slang Records, which has since been disbanded.
But that laid the groundwork for my label that I started in 2020 as kind of like this expanded collective or like this community of musicians more than like necessarily existing for like being the structure of a label. But so after doing that, that's when the rap thing kind of came around. A few years later, I was really into the Mad Conductor,
Okay.
which
Sure.
they're like a weird rap group from Pennsylvania, but also New Orleans. So they have a really eclectic sound.
Love it.
And so that kind of led me, and through working at this job that I had, it kind of put me down this road of like listening to a lot of Mad Conductor, Aesop Rock, MF Doom, Cool Calm Pete, Big Daddy Kane, like the Jizza, like all these different rap artists. And so I was like, oh, I want to do this. But then I would incorporate my other influences by like making my backing beats and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Very,
and
very
it was
cool.
really cool.
So were you dedicated into the rap scene for several years and gigging that way, or
Kind of. I mean, I
as
did
a solo
I did a
project?
couple rap shows
Uh-huh.
with my the current drummer in my band, Okay and the Night Crew. He's a longtime friend of mine, and he was in the punk bands when I first started. We've been playing together our whole lives. And he was my DJ, and so we'd go do shows, and we opened for the Mad Conductor. That was really cool. We would do some hip-hop shows in Mass, but most of our shows were like at bars, open mics,
Yeah.
college nights, kind of like these variety, more eclectic shows and
Sure.
whatnot. But after doing that, that's when we started forming the band and exploring, like rock, blues, the stuff that I've always liked and kind of
Is
grew
that
up
kind
on.
of where the current sound kind of coalesced?
For my solo stuff, it's after the band because we had been the band for a few years. We started in 2016. I put out my first solo thing in 2021. So I had a few years of kind of like ignoring that side and not doing anything with those tunes. And the band, so basically like in my life, it was like I discovered Nick Lowe and power pop, and then there was a pandemic. And then that kind of like started me down like this road that I'm on now with my current sound.
Okay, very cool. So that was kind of birthed out of the incubator of COVID.
Yeah, like
A little bit.
A little bit. Well, so slightly before COVID, like maybe a year or so, I bought a coffee maker and Nick Lowe's cowboy outfit in the same weekend, and so I was all jacked up. I'd run downstairs to the record shop that I lived above at the time and invite the employees up to my apartment for a cup of coffee and like, gotta check out this record. And when the pandemic hit, my bandmates and I, we all live in different states. So we're in Hartford, Connecticut, Westfield, Mass, and Brattleboro, Vermont. So with all the different lockdown guidelines and such, we couldn't get together.
Sure.
And so I was like, oh, well, it's the perfect time then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, how about another song?
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind introducing it for us.
This is a song that I used to play with my band, and I'll riff on them just a little bit here. But basically, we started off as a blues band in our mentality, and that kind of shifted to being a rock band. And while there's a lot of overlap, they are pretty different, in terms of, I guess, like their extremes. And so we had this song. We used to play it all the time, and one day I got outvoted 2-1. We can't play it anymore, and
So now it's yours.
so now it's a solo tune. They can't vote me here. I'm the only voter. So now I play it solo, and it actually came about because I was sitting at a bar with my dad, and he said the title. He uttered it like just in conversation, and then he was like, "You know what? That'd be a good song title." And so that kind of prompted me to write the song.
Sure.
So this is called "Blame It on the Blues."
Blame it on the blues.
they used to do. When I'm sitting here singing of women that I ain't ever known. And I know that there are better things that I could choose. Till I can figure it out, I'll blame it on the blues. Most days I don't know what the hell it is I'm supposed to do. Living in a world I got no connection to. But I know that I will find my own way through. Till I can figure it out, I blame it on the blues. Until I can figure it out, I'll blame it on the blues.
I was Blaming on the Blues by Derek O'Connor. Awesome. So let's get into a little bit more about what you're doing currently with your music. You've released 2 EPs in the last 2 years. Is that right?
Yep, one in 2021 and one just this September 2nd this year.
Very cool. And these are both done through your own label that you just started 2 years ago?
Yep, that's right.
Tell us a little bit about your label and how you came into running that as a way of creating your music, and maybe a little bit more about the other acts that you have that you're working with.
Yeah, totally. So the pandemic hit and I couldn't play with my band. And so I decided to start looking into recording my solo material. And I had a catalog that had been kind of piling up, and I hadn't released the songs in any meaningful way. And so I thought at that moment, like, if I'm gonna do this, then I want to take the necessary steps to do it right and to, I guess, completely own and operate my stuff.
Sure.
And so that led me down, okay, like, maybe I should start my own label just for myself, just kind of as like almost like a vanity project, like as a way to just do my own thing on my own terms, but legitimize it in some way.
Sure.
And then once I made that decision, it was like, well, if it's just me, that's kind of stupid, right? Like, I don't know, it's kind of lame. Like, so it's like, well, maybe I can use this to help other artists and legitimize them, and we can help each other through our various different connections and experiences and what have you. So I kind of opened it up to anyone, in New England. I didn't specify that, but I just said, like New England label, seeking bands and what have you. And so I got a ton of submissions, mainly from the Northeast. And one of the bands that got on right away, which was so awesome because I hadn't even put anything out yet. So they're the first band that I signed with basically no, no credentials, like on my part, you know what I mean? Like I have no real name or value I'm just starting out. And so
Sure.
It was the Cosmic Vultures, which they're out of Boston, Massachusetts. And they're currently on the ballot for the New England Music Awards, Rising Stars, Massachusetts. They have a different, or I'm sorry, they're the Artist of the Year. The Cosmic Vultures are for
Wow, very
Artist of
cool.
the Year this year. I work with another band out of Boston called Autumn Hollow, which the Cosmic Vultures are more funk, rock, prog. Autumn Hollow is Americana, indie, folk. So I work with people all across the spectrum. I don't really care what genre someone plays. You know, my main thing when I'm working with bands is does this deserve to exist?
Right.
99% of the time, it's yeah. You know, so once I started adding bands, it started legitimizing things, and so now I work with 12 different artists. You know, from Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut. There's a group I work with that's another Americana outfit called the Red Idol Rejects, and they're from Cincinnati,
Wow.
and they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're amazing, and I'm so happy to be associated with them.
So would it be a fair characterization to say that this has turned into more than you expected, or
Without
has the
question.
label just you expected to be working with, a dozen bands 2 years in?
I did not expect
No?
that. No, I had no idea what I still don't. You know, it's very much a learning process, and I can't stress enough to anyone who's like interested in doing something like this or anything creative, like just get started. Because 2 years ago I had no real it was not a sensible decision. There was no like real reason why I should have done that.
Right.
But I did, and now 2 years later I have so much more behind it than I could have even imagined. Because once you start doing things and planting those seeds and the ball starts rolling, other things come up and you can't predict it, So
Absolutely.
it's been wild. And like one thing that I couldn't have anticipated was Dylan Brody, who's he's a humorist, comedian. He's like a stand-up author,
Sure.
observational, funny guy. And he reached out about putting out a kind of a collaborative spoken word folk album that he had recorded in Los Angeles, and so we put that out together, and we did a digital launch party, and we had various performers, do some comedy and music, and that was incredible. I could have never predicted that working in music would also open other avenues, creative avenues. So
That's wild.
It's been crazy, and but
Yeah.
it's been great. I really love it.
That's awesome. And that's called Oak Honest Records.
That's right. Yeah.
I like that pun with your name. Not really a pun. More of just like a similar sounding thing.
Right.
That's great. And so has that left you enough time working with all those other groups to focus on your own music? We've talked about how you put out the 2 EPs
Yeah.
in the last 2 years. Is that the amount of music that you've been wanting to put out, or have you kind of found yourself wandering away from your own musical ambitions a little bit in favor of running the record label?
I think most people would say that time is like their most precious resource, and
Sure.
so it's definitely a challenge. Like it requires me to be organized and to be on top of things, and I have to keep myself accountable because there's people that I
Absolutely.
work with
Right.
who expect and deserve me to treat them professionally and to help reinforce like what they're doing. That being said, my main hurdle in releasing music, I guess, is just paying for studio time, putting out a release, because I like to do physical media, and so it's a little bit of investment for me, and so like I can only move at a certain pace. So that's my main obstacle, I guess, in terms of putting out my music. And from a songwriting perspective, I spend most of my time not writing songs, but I don't necessarily think that's the worst thing. I'm kind of more of an Ace Frehley in this regard. So of Kiss, Ace Frehley would say, like, I just write a song when it comes to me. I may not write a song for 4 months, and then I'll write 3 in a weekend, and that's just how it goes.
Sure.
Whereas Gene Simmons of Kiss would say, I write a song every day because that's what I do. It's like, it keeps me in the zone. That's like my discipline, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they've both written an equal number of great and terrible songs. So there's like no right or wrong way to do it.
Absolutely.
But for me, it's like, I kind of just write when I feel compelled to. And so that doesn't necessarily butt heads with me promoting other bands' stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, we'd love to hear another one of your tunes.
Cool. So this would be an example of a Gene Simmons song then, because this is one that I wrote as a result of a prompt. I decided like I'm gonna write a song, start to finish, in this session. Like I'm gonna sit down on my couch and I'm gonna write a song. I've no
Dedicated time.
Nothing. I have no like, oh, there's this melody I've been humming for a week, or there's this lyric. It was a completely fresh start, just to see what would come out of it.
Right.
So when I was doing the most recent EP, Spoken Roads, I had some other songs that I had picked out to play and that were older. And then this one, for whatever reason, it was like, its time is now. It just spoke to me, and so I had to rearrange the track listing and put this on there. It was actually for a show that I was playing, if I'm being totally honest, where I was playing an indie show, and I was like, oh, I am not an indie artist, like in the true sense of it.
Right.
So it's like, man, I gotta play it. I gotta write something like more indie to like fit in on this indie bill. And I don't think I even succeeded in writing the indie song, but I at least got something out of it. So this is called The Word Love. For so long I walked alone, my only path, the spoken road. Others tried, but couldn't match my stride, and in the darkness I was left behind. So here's to you, my friend, and may our story never end. And to think of all the times I cried, not knowing you would soon be by my side. Sweet angel, we found our time and place. Sweet angel, the word love is written on your face. In the golden glow, from over hill to Skidco, somewhere in a field I left a piece of me to keep safe from myself so long ago. But I never would have thought the wind would take it to Vermont, where I would recognize that shine down on Main Street when I looked into your eyes. Sweet angel, we found our time and place. Sweet angel, the word love is written on your face.
That was The Word Love.
That's right.
Thanks. let's talk a little bit more about your songwriting and how that fits in with your label label ownership.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So you say you don't write these songs except for when they like, come to when it's like you feel inspired to write as opposed to like having a lot of dedicated time to write these songs.
Right.
How would you say that the importance of melody and instrumentation, orchestration, that kind of thing, compares to like the actual lyrics of the song? Do you find yourself more drawn toward actually writing the meaning of the song? I noticed on your website you have a significant page dedicated to just the written word. And I was just wondering how you strike that balance, or if it really even is something that you think about when you're writing songs.
Yeah, I mean, that's something. So, in terms of the label, when I'm writing a song, that's a sacred space. Not necessarily like any profound sense, but just that when I'm writing, my intention is to write that song, and I'm not worried about if someone's gonna like it or if it has a commercial appeal or anything like that. When I do the label, I guess, or like from the label side, when I have the completed songs, then the label starts to creep in when it's like, okay, how do I package these?
Mm-hmm.
Like, which ones are gonna fit together or make a certain, which ones will be cohesive or interesting together, or that's
Sure.
kind of where it creeps in. The writing is just a creative endeavor, and
So would you say that once you wind up with enough material, or you have enough material in your backlog, that you kind of start to feel the way that the songs will go together on the EP? You say you like making these physical media as opposed to digital
Yeah.
media. Um, is that part of the calculus as well? Is like finding, 5 or so songs that you feel like really speak to one another as well?
Yeah, I'm trying to pair them in a meaningful way, and sometimes it's different. Sometimes it might be like a really artistic choice where it's like the concepts within these songs, relate to each other. And other times it might just be like something a little bit, I don't know, like sonic, maybe like, oh, these
Sure.
songs are all in the same key. They shouldn't be one
Okay.
after another.
Or maybe they have the
So
same
there's
vibe.
different,
Would you say something like that?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and I'm not locked into it either. Like, I picked out songs to go on this EP and then ended up switching out two of them and on a 5-track thing. That's most of it got, or a considerable portion of it got swapped out. So
Sure.
it's like I set the intention, but then I'm also trying to be aware in the moment of what feels right, what's speaking to me.
Sure. Has this always been kind of the way you approach songwriting, or has it changed? And specifically, once you started running your label with the other groups, how does that changed the way that you think about songwriting? Additionally, a little addendum to that question: have you tried writing songs for these groups that you're working with, specifically writing for other people?
I've never tried that. I've never tried my hand at writing for someone else. That does sound fun. That does have appeal to me. Because I like to write in what I guess I would consider to be my voice. But that's such a broad range of influence and everything that I'm not even necessarily sure exactly what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be cool to try to write for someone else or write a song that isn't necessarily attached to my identity in some way.
Sure.
But, running the label hasn't necessarily affected the way that I write my songs. And I'm at a point right now where I'm working off a back catalog, which is different than when you're out of song and you're creating new songs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I guess I'm still in a different scenario than someone who's like, I'm creating my next album
Uh-huh.
from scratch. Whereas right now, at least I'm still writing songs, but I have plenty that I haven't released that are still in the mix.
Sure.
And that I owe that to Ryan Cohen of Robot Dog, which is where I recorded my my first EP, and that was in Williston. Now he's going to be in somewhere in New York, but not too far away. But I went to him and I was like, "Hey man, I got 40 songs. Like, let's make an album." He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Why don't we make a couple EPs and like try to build up interest, or like build up to making an album rather than just throwing it out there, and you know what I mean?"
Right.
So that
right.
kind of became my approach. So I got to thank him for that.
Perfect. I like it. So what as a record label owner and operator, what advice would you give to younger artists? I know earlier you had said basically just start is really great advice, but once you
Yeah.
started, do you have any more advice?
Yeah, if you're an artist and you're getting started, you know, doing the things super important. You got to do the thing, otherwise you're not doing the thing. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's really that simple. If you're an
Sure.
artist, make some art or play a show.
Uh-huh.
Take concrete steps. But in addition to that, and I would say probably the most important thing, at least from my perspective as a label person, is like know your strengths and weaknesses. And so like it's okay. So the way I see it is everybody likes everything. Nobody actually likes everything, but there's someone out there for every niche, every different genre or subgenre or production style, whatever it is. You could be Joe Satriani or you could be Johnny Ramone.
Right.
People will put you on their top guitarist list. So there's no like right or wrong in art. You can do whatever you want. There's an audience for it, but don't be afraid to like bring someone in to help you who has a skill set that complements your own where you're lacking. And just try to do everything as authentically as you can and as high quality as you can. I think that's another important thing. Because if you're going to do it right.
Right.
This stuff, I mean, you put it online and it exists, in some cases, I don't know, infinity. It's going to be up there. So, take the time to have it mastered or, take some interesting cover art or have a logo made, just take steps to present yourself the best way you can.
Sure.
I think that's like tremendously important, fundamental thing you got to get right.
Absolutely.
And there's no right or wrong way to get it right, but you got to do it.
Absolutely. Well, taking a little bit of a turn here, let's talk about some of your other projects.
Sure.
Let's talk about OK and the Night Crew. This is your band that is spread all over New England.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that right? You say y'all play a couple shows a month, maybe?
Yeah, we're still active. We were in a lull for a little while because we were getting ready for New England Stoner and Doom Fest, which is in Jewett City, Connecticut, and we'll be playing there. It's a 3-day festival that we're on this year, and we've got some more recordings to put out. And so yeah, we're pretty active, and we get around. So we've played all around New England, New York City, Philadelphia. So
how awesome is that?
Oh, it's great. It's so much fun.
Love it.
Because when I do my solo shows, as fun as they are, I'm alone in the car. It's just me. I'm going someplace, whatever. So it's cool to have the guys around, and it's definitely a more lively experience that way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about another project that you have going on, the cassette tape exchange.
Yes. Okay. Cool. So yeah,
we're gonna get to it.
Yeah. So that I am not a normal person, and so I like cassettes, and while maybe not the most mainstream format right now, there's a lot of people out there that do like cassettes. And basically what happened was I had a car, it was a 1996 Camry, and it had a tape deck. And I have a history of buying really cheap phones that break, and so like just running your phone through the tape deck wasn't always the best option for me. So I started going to Goodwills and thrift shops and that kind of thing, and picking up tapes, and ended up having quite a few tapes, and then I started making mixtapes. I have a ton of CDs, records, tapes, and such, and the auxiliary input. So I was making all kinds of these mixtapes for the car, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I could, like, what was that site where you could make playlists? Like, it wasn't Spotify. It was a different site from years ago where you could like HTML, like copy and paste your playlist somewhere,
Sure.
and it was like mix something. I can't remember, but I was like, oh, there must be something like, because like I want to share the playlist. Like, this is a cool mix. How do I share it with people? And I never figured out how to like really do that. So I was like, well, you know what I'll do is then I'll open up a PO box, and I'll let people mail me their tapes, and I'll mail them my tapes. And maybe if enough people participate, like I can mix up the tapes and send them back out so people find cool new stuff.
How awesome is that?
It's been a lot of fun. That's actually another surprise. Like, I had no idea that it was gonna get any traction.
Really?
So, well, I mean, you know,
And-
it was just like, went on WordPress. I started a blog. Like, I bought a domain name. I was like, I don't know. And then people in New Mexico, Nevada, Maine, in Brattleboro, like people were just mailing me tapes, and so it was really cool. And doing band reviews, so bands would send me stuff, and oh yeah, it's
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
Is this still something that you're actively doing?
So it's been dormant for a little while, and I have to reformat the way that I've been doing it, but it's not dead. And I'm in the process of reformatting it. So I'm still accepting tapes and submissions and whatnot.
Very cool.
So that's something that...
For all you listeners, please get
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, the cassette tape exchange program. And that was my show when I was a DJ on WVEW, which is out of Brattleboro. That was my show, the cassette tape exchange program. And I would not necessarily play cassettes, but I'd play the stuff that was from the mixes or the stuff that had been sent in to me, as well as other things. So it started off as a blog, then became a radio show, and now it's a, mixtape trading service. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, Derek, you're all over the place. I love it. I love it so much. Coming up, do you have any shows? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me, Facebook and Instagram, okanos.music. That's OKANOS.music. You could also find me through Oak Honest Records, which is, on all the socials, as well as okanasrecords.com. I also have my own site, derekokanis.com, and check out the Cassette Exchange at cassetteexchange.com. But for shows, yeah, so I'm on a tour right now for the month with the new EP, and so the next stop will be Luthier's Co-op in East Hampton, Massachusetts. It's a bona fide luthier, but it's also a bar and performance venue. So it's a really cool spot, and that'll be the last stop on the tour. We kicked off in Brattleboro, went to Barrie, Westchester, Pennsylvania, Jewett City, Connecticut, Portland, Maine. So it's been really cool. So I've been pretty active, and I'll have shows through October and November that I'll be promoting.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, with that, why don't you play us out?
Sure. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you guys having
Happy
me
to
on.
have you.
Yeah, this has been great, and so I'm gonna kill the mood now. No, I'm just kidding.
It's your mood to do
with-
whatever you want with.
Well, I appreciate that. So this is a song that, like Little Bird, probably around 2000, or actually Little Bird was. I'm sorry, I lied on air, and I want to apologize to the public for violating their trust. Little Bird is actually like 2011 or 12 maybe, and this song is about 2009. And so I've been kicking this one around the longest, and I still haven't put it out yet. This is one that I really want to do something special for, or just get it right in some way. And so basically what it's about is just going through a tough time, like just whatever it is in your life, just like a bad time. and then you're on the other side of it, and you're like, well, okay, it had some value, like it served some purpose. I didn't enjoy it, but it served some kind of function in my life. And so the initial idea is like, okay, going through hell. That was like my first kind of like idea for like how to phrase or interpret the feeling. And I was like, well, I can't just say that. That's like too, like contrived or whatever. So I went with, I'm a Pisces. So this song is called Leviathan. I have swam with Leviathan in the middle of the raging sea. The air was full of salt, my heart was full of fear. Still, I've never felt so free. I've watched my dreams all disappear. Soaring high on eagle's wings, and I pray that they might soon return. For dreams, they are mysterious things. Leviathan dragged me down, far from the air that we breathe. When I fought my way through a breaking wave, up from the depths of the briny deep. And I've walked streets of cobblestone, arm in arm with nobody. And I ask if they swam with Leviathan. They know not the name of which I speak. And I have swam with Leviathan. And I have swam with Leviathan.
That's Leviathan by Derek O'Connor. Derek, thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah,
It's been a
thanks for
real
having
treat.
me. Thank you so much.
This has been 105.9 The Radiator, WOMMLP. I'm Aaron Cross. Thanks again to Derek O'Connor.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks, guys.
That was fun.
That was